I think that's working. Hello. Awkward bit at the beginning. I haven't made a video for quite a long time because I've just been kind of digesting and just being, really. And I haven't been in a very talky mood. I've just been mainly just making stuff, just doing lots of arty things in silence and enjoying that. And but this has been sort of in my mind that I want to talk about this because I've had a kind of another big shift. What you realise with this is that it never stops, actually. It's like you leave one room and you enter into the next room. And when you first go in there, because you've left behind what was in the previous room, it feels like there couldn't possibly be anywhere else to go or anything better than this, because it's better than you've ever had. But then you start to notice the things that are still there. And also, you have a new perspective. And so you're looking from there. So you're seeing everything that's previously been through a different window. And then you kind of clear up that room and then you move through to another room. And I think it goes on indefinitely. I hope so, because it'd be really boring if it just stopped and nothing else happened. There's so much. I mean, how could nothing else happen? There's so much out there to understand and to... it's like my perspective now has changed from the interior to the exterior more. Well, not the exterior, not the world, but the... it's hard to say the bigger picture, but you realise that from here you can't know the bigger picture. You can step out of this into the bigger picture, which I'll talk about a bit later on, but you can't bring that here because that doesn't exist here. This is a entity of its own, kind of. And so something's itching me. So what's happened is the last video I made, I think I did talk about briefly that I'd had this experience of stepping out. It's like sticking my head up and coming out of this world. It's like, I could describe it like like a video that just suddenly the pause button was pushed, and here I still was, but the world and the life and everything that I imagined myself to be was just a film, a game that I participated. It was just astonishing. And the most astonishing thing was realising that no matter what I'd learnt or how far I'd come up until that point, everything actually had been in the game, in the video. But suddenly I was on the outside of the video, and it was just mind-blowing. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't stop saying, oh my God, and my jaw just wouldn't shut. It was just absolutely astonishing, realising that... The funny thing is that I've had that experience loads and loads of times of my life being very, very far away and realising the insignificance of it. But this was like a completely different experience. It's just not real. This world is just not real. Each of us create our own universe, and each one is unique to each experiencer, which is actually, when you step out of this, you are not... Nothing from here is there. This is completely different. You don't have a body, you don't have... But you have an individuality. But you have no... there's nothing, it's impossible to describe, but you feel more whole there than you ever could here because there's no duality. It's like your individual consciousness continues within the greater consciousness. It's like you could still have your individual thoughts, but there's no separation between you and anything else. But there's no interest in what you are when you're there. The interest sparks when you come back into this world and think, oh my God, what was that? When you're out of it, you don't care. There's no, because you're not. It's very hard to properly describe. And coming back in afterwards is also, it's like you're out of it and suddenly the video's playing again and you're back in. But I spent about several weeks just like, bloody hell. It's just, but it actually in some ways enhances it because it's all, you've created it all for yourself. You create this whole experience just for the joy of it, and then you trick yourself into believing it. And you're so good at tricking yourself that you fall for it hook, line and sinker over and over and over again. And you can come out of it and have the experience of being out of it, and then you can trick yourself right back into it again. It's a phenomenal game, and it's a dualistic game. And as soon as you're in it, the dualism comes back in. It's impossible to be in here without it, because as soon as you utter a word, you've created a duality. So I had that experience, and then I was like back in the game. But obviously, once you've had that experience, even you can't ever you can't believe it again. But then your mind still does, because you're still interacting and still saying things like, "What do you want for dinner?" and being in the game. But what I find now is that I'll be being in the game, and suddenly I'll think, "Oh, I believe I'm the game right now. I'm believing it. I think I'm this," and it's just astonishing. It's all astonishing. But what happened after that? I went back into the game, and then a few days later, I was sat out on the terrace, and I was sat on a mat on the floor, which is actually something that I don't really do. So I don't know why I was, but I was that day. And I suddenly felt this overwhelming male energy in me. It like grew in me, and it was like I became a man. I could feel myself as a man from the inside. It was like I was this great big, strong, full of testosterone, full of angst and pent up frustration and longing, and but it was male. But I knew it. But I'd never seen it like that. It'd never been like that. I don't know why that would never have occurred before. Probably would never have had the space to do that. So first of all, I was like thinking, "Oh, what is this coming?" And then once it started to rise, I dropped into it and was it from the inside. And I was a man. I was this big, ogreish man, and I had a huge penis, and it was erect, and that was quite shocking. But I could understand what it felt like to be a man, and how different it is to being a woman, and how that the feelings in a man, that urge of sexuality that isn't in the female side. But I did recognise it in myself, but not like that. I've never had a massive cock before. So yeah, I dropped into this, and then I stood, and this man, he was, he was just, completely full of testosterone and hurt and anger and pain and frustration, and he was dirty and burnt. It was like he spent his whole life holding hot coals, and he was holding them for her, the feminine, and all of every bit of frustration he had was about her utter rejection of him. And when I saw that from his perspective, saw that he was looking at her, I saw how he saw her. He wanted her so badly. He wanted her soft, feminine, delicate, lovely floweriness. He wanted to be allowed to touch that, to be joined with that. But she wouldn't have it. Her attitude towards him was absolute repulsion and rejection. She saw him as brutish and just horrible. So I was seeing her from his perspective, and she was like, "Oh God, go, just get away from me," because she was terrified of him. He was horrible. From where she was stood, he was just like didn't want him anywhere near him. He was terrifying. He'd frightened her all his life, all her life. He'd been at her, frightening her, wanting to dominate her. But from his perspective, his need to dominate her, his anger and resentment towards her was purely because he was just so full of this overwhelming longing for her. And the reason he was like he was because she was rejecting him, and that fueled his anger and his rage and his rejection even more. And every time he reached out to her, she would him away, like, "Oh God," just so. I went into her perspective and saw it from where she was, and she just didn't want anything to do with him at all. But once you see like this, you take your energy in, and you can sort of influence that part by showing. So I was saying to her, look at him, look at why he's like he is. He's like that because he's been protecting you, and everything that's ever happened, he's held on to it, and his only motivation is your safety. And even though every time he looks at you, you push him away and you're horrible to him, he will follow you everywhere, and he will do anything, and he will hold any cold that you pass him, even though at the same time he will be shouting at you. And she kind of started to soften and to see that, like, the burns and the dirt and her fear softened into sorrow for him and compassion. And she just suddenly kind of melted into, oh my God, what have I done? All this pushing away I've been doing, even though I've been saying that I want to help you because I'm spiritual, because that's the part that's all like, oh yes, I'm very spiritual, and I accept everything. She didn't accept him. Suddenly they came together, and then they just had mad sex, and that was just amazing because I was watching this and being both of them at the same time. I mean, from his perspective, I was giving her one. This is a weird thing to talk about. I think this is maybe why it's taken me so long to talk about it, because it is a bit odd. But yeah, from the perspective, I was really, he felt just so relieved, and just that he was finally allowed to embrace her and to hold her and to be in her and to be his brutish self. And she was allowing him to be. The first time he was rampant because he had all this frustration, that anger, and he was really going for it. But she just yielded to it and accepted it and liked it. And this is just sort of playing out. And I was sitting on this, and there was actually movement like shagging movements. And all this is going on, and I'm going behind it all, like, oh my God, like it's like I was a voyeur watching some. Yeah, it was very erotic. So yeah, anyway, they carried on doing that for about 3 days, but in between that, there was just a union of them talking, and it's like every time I went in to see how they were, I could feel them. I'd think, oh, there they are again, they're at it again. But I would sort of like peer in, and they'd be lying together, and she'd be stroking his burns, and just whatever the other one had to say, they were just so together. She was just, however he was, she was just loving him. She wasn't scared of him anymore, and he just couldn't get enough of her. So yeah, that joined into a beautiful union, and since then everything is just peaceful. I mean, it had become like that, but there was this. He had kind of dropped out. He'd pissed off. He'd had enough and left. But she was still there. But he would kind of, if he did have any input, that side of the mind, the negative or the darker side of the mind, her reaction was that. And that's what alerted me to there's something still not quite right here. So even though it was kind of far back in my mind, it was aware of her little all the time. And it happened enough times that I thought, what's that? And that's what sparked off the whole investigation of it. But it means now that everything has just become so unified. It's like they've become joined. Now, it's like when this whole thing started off, they both joined with me individually, but they never had joined together. But now it's like it's become a triangle of there's just a union. They both listen to me, but they listen to each other. And they're very contented just together. They don't intrude that much. But it's like this side, the happy, the girly side, she's artistic and she wants to make things and express. And she loves flowers and all the pretties. And where before he would have been about that, he's not now. And when arty things happen, when it's like the three of us do things, it's kind of like they do it really more than I do. I'm just kind of, whatever they want to do, they can, because what else is there to do, really, except for indulge your humanness? Because from my perspective, I have no wants and desires. It's them that want and desire. That's the human expression. From back here, it's just, you know that it's all a game, so let the game have fun, let the game be happy. What happens now is when artistic stuff happens, where before it would always be out of balance because they weren't in balance. So she would think, I want to do something, oh, I want to go make something. And if her will was strong enough, she would. But what would generally happen was he would pop in, or the negative side would pop in and go, we're not getting all that out, I'm not doing that, not making a bloody mess, because that's what my mum would have said. So it would be echoing that. That was the theme of my childhood. I'd say, oh, Mum, no, that was, you're not doing that, you'll make a bloody mess. And everything I did, if I was doing it, there'd be tutting in the background. And so everything was always, you'd be really wanting to do it, but it would all be a bit fraught because I was clumsy. And I would get paint everywhere, and it was just so I still am. I still get paint everywhere. I can't do anything without getting covered in it. Every time I do resining, I get it in my hair and I have to cut a bit of hair out. But I don't care. It doesn't matter, because that part now just goes, oh, it's in your hair, or it's in the hair. And so they'll work then together to get it out. It's not like, oh, I bloody told you. It's like the darker side of the mind is the practical side, the part that will measure things. And so if I want to do painting, that'll be the part now that will lay it all out. Where before, what would happen is if there was a strong enough urge that I was able to do it, it would just be, because this part isn't practical, it just wants to create, and so it wouldn't set things up right, wouldn't do things right, so it would be a mess, and the other part would be not helping but criticising. But now they work together, so this side sets it all up, does all the practical part, and then hands over, and then the other side does the creativity. But they work together on things like, do you think that will go with that? Do you think that colour goes nice with that? And whatever comes out at the end of the creation, that's fine, because if it's not right, there's learning. Where before, the one that wanted to create was under so much pressure that it had to be perfect, and of course it never was, because when you start doing things, it's not perfect, and it doesn't need to be perfect. Nothing needs to be. What's perfect? Just do it for the fun of it. But everything I did would be criticised. That as I was doing it, it would be being criticised. With my mother in the background, always. And now it's just, if something goes wrong, it's just, oh, well, didn't do that quite right, didn't do this quite right, or it doesn't matter, it's still something, and it's still, there's not, the part that was creating would be embarrassed about everything she did, and the other part would always say that it was wrong, so that doesn't happen now, and it's just a union, it's just a united front. Like, I sometimes hear them talking to each other about, and they do debate things, but it's friendlier. They sometimes fall out, but not in. It's like a couple, just like a couple of people but there's a love there, you know. It's just that one have one idea and the other have the other, and yeah. But it's yeah. There's no animosity. It's just a sort of, the three parts are just having the experience of living, and then being able to just enjoy every moment and indulge each other. Is like, I've always indulged them both. All of that was there from that minute of the realizing of stepping out. All there was from me was just acceptance and love and come, come, come. And it was them battling it. And yeah, the battle's over. And so, yeah, it's really rather pleasant. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, yeah, there was something that I did want to talk about that I think is quite important. I had a realising about, once these parts united, I realised that the problem that the happy side has about going to the nothing place, where eventually she has to go because she has to take the light to the dark. The dark can't come to the light. It's like she's over here going, "Come on, I love you, come to me." She don't really know. She hated it, but she could love it from the light place. But she wasn't prepared to go where the dark was, because it felt like the annihilation of everything that she was. She was the light side. She didn't realise that she had to take herself to the dark. And I realised from her point of view why the dark was so terrifying, why the nothingness frightens us so much. And I think it's because, in my experience, the only times in my life that I ever really went into that darkness was out of trauma. It was when life would be so traumatic that my mind wouldn't be able to cope anymore, and I would drop through the trauma into this place of nothing. In what I wasn't realising, what you don't realise at the time, because you've come out of trauma, and as soon as you start humaning again, you've got to go back into trauma. It's like a holding place. It's like a womb. And it's like the higher consciousness, when it gets so much that you can't take it, it takes you out to the womb to give you that space. If you think about when you had experiences where you got so traumatized or whatever that eventually you would go into a place where you would just curl up and disappear, and that's where you disappear to. You disappear into the nothing. That's where you're taken. But because the only times we've ever been there is through trauma, the thought of going there is terrifying, because we're not thinking about what's actually there. We're thinking of what took us there, and we associate there with the thing that took us there in the first place. And so that's why we're too scared to go there, because that's where the monsters are. But actually the monsters aren't there. The monsters are kind of imaginarily on the outside. You've built them up, and they live around that because they're dark. And so to get into the place where your freedom lies, you need to go surrender into accepting the darkness. But it's the positive side of the mind, the light side, the fluffy, the feminine side, that's terrified of going into the male side. Your reality, you're not scared of anything. It's all happening here. The play is between here and here. And it's the light side that has to take itself into the dark to illuminate it. But it's too frightened because the darkness represents nothing. And so, yeah, I think that's it, really. I've got a new cat. He's an absolute menace. I can show you him actually if you like. Here he is. He's got issues, but he's getting better. He's really sweet. His name's Leland Palmer, and Bob. He's both of those things. And he's the sweetest thing, but he's got a bit of a he's a bit not all there. And when he plays, he's very vicious. but he's not nasty. He just doesn't know how to do it nicely. And he bit me the first day we had him. Bit me so hard I had to have antibiotics. And yeah, but he's coming round. It's a wonder actually to watch this poor creature that had lived in awful conditions. Came here, was a full Tom, had stunk, absolutely reeked, and he was mad and bitey and horrible, and had his testicles removed, and yeah, within like 2 weeks, he's a completely different person. And he is a person. They are little people, really. I mean, they're not in human bodies, but they've got personalities. And yeah, he's now decided that playing is a really good idea. And so he follows you around trying to get you. But he doesn't quite know how to do it. And it's not malicious. He can't walk properly. His legs don't work properly. He's all uncoordinated. He falls over a lot. But he's delightful at the same time, but a little bit scary. So, yeah. I don't know why I've just told you that. I don't know why. But anyway, bye.